Hello and welcome to my Triangle Strategy Travis Advanced Guide. In this guide, we're going to be going over the unit Travis, as well as what he can do, what he brings to the table, and like basic effective strategies with him. So first, we're going to go over items. That's one of the most important things. He's mostly a New Game Plus unit. His best items, strength and speed items, are good. Durability items like Health Bracelet, Res Earring, Endurance Earring are good. He's also really good with Rear Guard's Cloak. I'm going to cover that later. But essentially, he has Steel Back, and this further reduces damage when taken from the back. And if you know anything about Steel Back, you actually will take less damage because it halves the damage, and I believe a crit only increases damage by 50%. It's either 30 or 50%, I can't remember the number off the top of my head. But you overall will take way less damage if you have Steel Back and you get hit in the back. So something to note about Steel Back. Alright, so let's jump into it. Alright, so first thing we'll talk about is Backward Toss. He has two big like single target abilities, Mug and Backward Toss. He has an upgrade where you either, and you can change it after you get either or of them, you can either increase the damage of Mug, or you can reduce the cost of Backward Toss to 1 TP. So if you reduce the cost of Backward Toss, which is a hilarious thing, it'll always outdamage Mug. And there's also the potential to throw enemies off of small things, so let's actually look at these abilities. So you can see here, Mug, plus or minus 2 height, 263 damage, Backward Toss, 309 damage. Let me make sure I have the Backward Toss -1, I do. So even with the damage upgrade, Backward Toss will outdamage Mug, and also if you look at Backward Toss, you can drop enemies down a few tiles for extra damage. You can't drop them very far down though, there is a limit. So something to note, Backward Toss is almost always better than Mug. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to have him expose his back. This guy's going to stab him, but he took nothing. So if I were to have positioned him with his face outward, I just tested this, he would have taken like 120 or like 110 damage. With Bulwark just gets you a few extra points of damage off, like 4. But with Rear Guard's Cloak, On Your Guard, and Steel Back, all this stuff combos up. So he has this passive, he has 2 passives that are really good. On Your Guard, decreases damage taken when no allies are nearby, and the range is 1 to 2. So he can be close to your team, he just needs to be 1 to 2 range away. What is 1 to 2 range away? I'll actually show you in a second once it's his turn again. But basically, this is 1 to 2 range, and it's kind of like this. So that's the distance. So like you can still be near him, and he can kind of hold a flank by exposing his back to physical. He's not weak to magic either, like most tanks. He has 42 magic defense. And then with Bulwark, he just, becomes tankier. In this case, I'm running a more defensive build where you run Rear Guard's Cloak and Speed Bracelet. The Speed Bracelet's for increased turn order. Very standard thing. Okay, so let's talk about Impending Strike. What I can do, though, before that, I'm going to show Backward Toss.
We're counting on you.
My turn.
Alright, so Backward Toss. You can see it does pretty good damage. And like with most abilities, it can crit. So back attacks do matter. It won't drop them unless you're like on an elevation. So even in this case, it looks like I might be able to drop him, but it'll just put him on a tile that's the same elevation as me. You have to move them down in elevation, and unfortunately you can't drop them down like very far, which sucks. I don't know why. That's like the coolest thing to be able to do, but you can't do it. So we'll just go Backward Toss. Another big upside is it delivers enemies to Travis, which kind of allows you to follow-up spam them, especially good with Serenoa. So he actually took, from the front, he took a 51 damage follow-up, and from the back, he took a 54 damage crit. So follow-up attacks are half damage. So the follow-up attack almost did as much damage as the basic attack. You can kind of see a downside of Backward Toss, where in some situations, if you use it, you're going to be exposing yourself to follow-up attacks. So you usually want to kill the thing you Backward Toss right away. I mean, you don't have to, but like you can see, he can tank it to some degree. Alright, so let's talk about Impending Strike. So what we will do, just twofold turn him. Whoops. He's like out of range. Alright, now I will twofold turn him.
We must move fast.
Great. Okay, so impending strike has the exact same effect. Like if you look at the turn order, it's just a slight reduction in this case because there's not that many enemies, but it has the exact same effect as Serenoa's, except it hits up to 3 enemies. And it also acts as like an AoE. It can also get back attacks. I'm pretty sure it can get follow-up attacks too. So let's do this. Check this out. This is gonna look stupid, but I'm fairly certain it can trigger follow-up attacks, but we have to confirm that. Yeah, it does. So not only is it an AoE delay that has the exact same effects as Serenoa's delayed strike, which can be insanely good situationally, but it can also multi-back crit and multi-follow-up attack. And if you're running like Eridor with Travis, Eridor can just keep provoke spamming, and then Travis can steal back to like draw enemies in, and then you can kind of create like a little like kill box situation where enemies are just being funneled through all of your units. So I'm actually going to expose his back here. And then, actually, can I kill you? Let's do that. So if you backward toss and they don't have anywhere to go, it should just drop him back down. He just like laughed. Alright.
Count on me.
So you can see there I got hit for huge damage because I didn't have my back exposed, which seems counterintuitive and kind of is. But it's a thing, so alright, let's do this. Let's revitalize. Oh, sorry, restore.
I owe you one.
And then we'll just in tandem. So impending strike is really good. You should always check to see what it does before committing to it. It's like it's the same thing with Serenoa, right? If the delay is relevant, if the delay matters, you should do it. If it doesn't, then you should probably just throw an AoE stone or just hit with backward toss. Alright, so we're just going to expose our back. He should go for it because enemies can't recognize steal back. Yeah, so that's like the big upside of his passive. It's like one of the big selling points of him, that enemies prioritize back attacks, just like with Eridor. Alright, and then we will... I mean, Bulwark doesn't really help with this level. Let's Raging Beast him for fun. Okay, so stealing is kind of a gimmick. It's not worth doing overall. If you run Travis, it will happen randomly, but there are better ways of making money. Specifically, some of the endgame farms are much better.
Hope you're ready.
Alright, so you can see Mug, difference here. Even with the damage increase, I've tested it. It's less than backward toss. Another thing you can do with backward toss is move enemies away from your team. And you can see here, you can kind of flip them away and then expose your back to them. So you simultaneously protect yourself and tank, which is pretty cool. Let's see if I can hit him with a heal. Should be able to.
Here you go.
And then he takes less damage, you know, when he's not near his team, so that's very good. Let's talk about Heavy Blow. I'm going to reset after they attack him. Look at that. Look at that tanking. 216 from the side. Takes 80 from the back instead. Steal back is ridiculous. Look at that. Crazy. And the one dude that hit him from the front hit him hard, so you gotta keep in mind how crazy steal back. Just steal back alone is really good.
I'll do my utmost.
Okay. Let's see, what do we have? Alright, we don't really have much. So we can't really do anything cool here, so let's just reset. So Heavy Blow, that's his big AoE attack, his weapon skill. It takes 2 turns to use, 1 turn to start it, another turn to end it. You can use turn accelerators to set it up. It can also back crit if it hits enemies who are in front of you and their backs are facing you. So you can actually, if you have like Medina or Benedict moving after Travis, he can actually move behind a group of enemies and then back crit both of them with Heavy Blow, and it'll deal crazy damage. Oh, it might be called Heavy Smash. I might be thinking of a Guild Wars 1 skill. My bad, Heavy Smash. Alright. Yeah, I'm thinking of a Guild Wars 1 skill, so don't ask me what that is. Alright, so we can draw these boys in by exposing our back. And the on your guard 10% damage reduction is huge. So I did test it. On your guard reduces damage by 10%. And as you see here, Steal Back is great for baiting enemies into basically a bad position or just pulling enemies where you want them, they will almost always, without fail, attack a back. There are very rare, there are very few situations where enemies will ignore a back. All right, so let's do this. This actually works out for the combo I want to do. We'll do a basic fast acting heavy blow combo. I keep calling it heavy blow, heavy smash.
Let us try out.
It's like, it's all the Guild Wars stuff. Alright, so let's give him a damage buff for fun.
I have your back. Not bad. Coming through.
Okay, so here's heavy smash. So it should back crit. Actually, we can just do this. We can back crit both of them. And then the upside of doing stuff like this is that that archer will shoot me in the back, but it doesn't matter because of steel back. So you can literally be stupid with this unit in some ways, and it's totally fine. Alright, so we fast acting. This is like the basic combo. You want Medina or Benedict to go right after him to set these up. And if you can hit enough enemies with this, it can be huge damage. Alright, so that was like 250 on all those. And instead of taking 200, he took 96 there. Let's see. Ooh, they're getting the squishy damage. So we overextended a little bit. Alright. So I went over the baiting. And I went over heavy smash can back crit. So is heavy smash worth it? So let's talk about that. Well, first of all, let's talk about is Travis worth using. You can use him and he's viable. Every unit in this game is viable. There isn't a unit in this game that is bad or underpowered or terrible. Some of the units are just like suboptimal, but they're still totally fine to beat hard mode on. They're still totally fine to beat most deathless maps on, especially on New Game Plus. His overall kit, the stealing stuff, like trial by fire is whatever, doesn't really help. His fire resistance is nice. It's like, you know, kind of cool. A lot of enemies hit with fire or ice, so the fact that he's just half damage against fire is an upside. Backward toss. The main things that are good about him, I would say, backward toss, on your guard, impending strike, and steel back. And then heavy smash, situationally, is decent, but it's hard to set up consistently, and it requires a lot of investment. So like if you're running Maxwell and you just want to get like high jumps off, it's really easy to do that, right? Like you just need the TP and then you use it. With heavy smash, you need 4 TP. You need the enemies to be in a position because he can't move while doing it, whereas with like high jump or glacial moon, you can just use it where the enemies are. And then he also needs a turn accelerator. So situationally, heavy smash can be decent. It's harder to set up than something like high jump because of flexibility. High jump can be used on enemy backline, and by backline I mean like their mages and healers and archers and stuff like that. So you can hit a group of enemies that are approaching you way easier with like Glacial Moon, high jump, or even Sunfall, because with Sunfall you just have to predict where the enemies are going to be when you want to use it, or just turn accelerated at range, and it's much easier to use. The problem with heavy smash is that Travis, he needs to bait enemies. He only has 5 moves, so like similar to Avlora, he has movement issues. He's more durable than a lot of units, but he definitely has mobility issues, and he needs help getting around, or he just needs to be like more turtley and kind of just bait enemies and then smack them with heavy smash out of nowhere. And that can be fine, but you also have to consider, like, when I turn accelerated him, if I was just using a unit that had a 1-turn AoE, and then Medina just double items and threw 2 damage items, that would have been more damage anyways. So I think the opportunity cost of heavy smash generally doesn't justify the use case, but you can use it. Overall, I would say he's a good off tank that can deal some damage. He's really good at single target. He kind of contributes to shutdown with impending. Impending can get pretty good damage off if you get 3 times back crits. It can be hard to line enemies up horizontally. You very likely will be hitting them when they're lined up vertically. So by that I mean, as enemies approach you, they'll be lined up more like this than like this, because they approach you in a line. So if you create a situation where all their backs are facing this way and you can get them behind, great, but that's not going to happen often. But backward toss gimmick, I think, is really good. Pulling enemies away from your team and steel backing, that's really good. He kind of acts like a bodyguard. Heavy Smash, I don't really think it's really that useful. It can be decent. If you can set it up and it makes sense, go for it. But you saw there, like I Raging Beasted him. And he got crits and it was only 250 damage. So it's just not... It's not as good as it should be, to be honest. I think what they should do is maybe reduce the damage a little bit and then just make it one turn. Just one turn it just activates. He also doesn't have any way of generating TP. Most melee units don't, but like Maxwell does, so that's like a huge upside. Maxwell basically does everything Travis can do except for like the backward toss. But he also has high jump, and he has traverse, and he has built-in res. So he will die. Like generally steel backing, if used optimally, can tank a little bit better, but it doesn't affect magic. So that's one key thing here. Steel back does not affect magic at all. So if he's gonna get hit for like 300 damage from a spell, you better hope it's a fire spell, so he gets reduced damage. But that's pretty much it for Travis. I don't think there's too much to him to really go deep into. Setting up heavy smashes, I would say the main use is just to like bait enemies and then heavy smash them, if you want. You can kind of see here in this map, there's like, all the enemies are split apart. So it depends on enemy density as to how good it is. But he can hold a flank down pretty well with steel back. He works well with Eridor for this reason. They can both kind of steel back spam, and Eridor spams provoke. Travis can just help with damage. Yeah, he's kind of like a generalist in this way. He's like kind of shutdown, kind of damage. Doesn't really carry either as like a unit that you would like slot in to like solve a problem. Like, oh, we're gonna run Eridor as shutdown because that's what he does. We're gonna run Milo as shutdown, or Maxwell as damage, Roland as damage, Frederica as damage, and so on. But he's decent overall. He's kind of fun to use. The steel back thing's fun. Flipping dudes is fun. So yeah, I would say overall he's a good unit, and you should run him if you want. But yeah, that's it for this guide. Definitely like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed this. It turns out only 15% of people are subscribed to my channel that watch my content, which is unfortunate. So let's try to get those numbers up, baby, and peace.